You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Good evening, I'm Bill Mulholland, and welcome to Good Sports Classics. My guest is Central Falls native Kelley, and tonight we will discuss her youth, high school, and college playing days. Kathy, as a junior in the fall of 1975, was a pioneer participating on Central Falls High School's girls cross-country team, which was the first ever Interscholastic League Warrior Schoolgirl sports team, where she made first team All-State. Kathy was also an All-State basketball 5'6" point guard in 1977. Kathy later matriculated to Rhode Island College and was a 3-year small forward starter on the basketball team, along with being named captain in her junior and senior campaigns while helping lead the Anchorwomen to 3 consecutive AIAW postseason tournaments. Kathy is a member of the Central Falls High School Hall of Fame, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League Hall of Fame, and the Rhode Island College Athletic Hall of Fame. Welcome to Good Sports Classics, Kathy.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And by the way, congratulations on your recent induction to the Pawtucket Hall of Fame, a well-deserved honor.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Kathy. So let's start with your early days of sports in Central Falls. So what sports-related opportunities were available to girls in the late 1960s?
My earliest memory of participating in any sports in Central Falls was in 1969, and this was through the Central Falls Recreation Department, which was led by legendary coach Ed Hiru, LaSalle Academy.
Yes.
And they offered lots of sports during the summer for boys and for girls, but especially in the 60s and early 70s, girls' sports became very popular. So we had activities such as softball, basketball, volleyball, and tennis.
Okay. Just during the summer months?
During the summer months, yes. And they hired, and they were college women at the time, Bella Marie Goes and Pat Marcotte, and they were the girls' directors. And basketball coach from Central Falls, Roger Barad, was the boys' director. And they directed all of the sports and led all of the activities for the children. And at the time, that's when I was 10 years old.
Yeah. Now, was that at a certain playground, or was it over at the Central Falls Community Center? Where was it located?
Well,
the base.
The softball took place at Maycomber Stadium. Basketball was at Higginson Avenue. And we had tennis courts also at Higginson Avenue. And there were tennis courts at the Pawtucket YWCA on Broad Street.
Sure.
And
Okay.
we had some tennis lessons over there as well.
All right. And so when that was happening during the summer months, you actually had to walk or took your bike over to these certain places and complexes? Is that how it worked?
Yes, we walked a lot, but we also had bicycles, and our parents were comfortable enough because Central Falls is just 1 square mile, so they were, comfortable with us walking as a group. We were usually together, friends. We would meet up and then walk down to the playgrounds or down to Maycomber Stadium for the activities.
Yeah. And the activities, were they organized, or were they a different team on a different day, or was it like a little league or like a softball leagues that were out there?
So there was a schedule. So say softball would go maybe Monday and Wednesdays from 9 to 11 o'clock in the morning. And we'd meet down at Maycomber Stadium, and there was some instruction at the time,
Okay.
On how to play and how to hit and catch and different things, because we were all just starting out learning. So there was a lot of instruction, and that's
And then at the end of the summer, you had told me before the show got started today, was that they would have this big field event day?
Yes, well, prior to that, we also had different playgrounds in Central Falls, and that was a big hub at the time for, depending on where you lived, the one that was closest to your home was where you, say, hung around, you know, or
Okay.
that your parents would say, okay, I know you're going to Washington Street Playground and you're going to be there, you know, and they had arts and craft activities and, you know, different things of that nature, and that's where you kind of hung around with your group of friends. And then maybe down at Sacred Heart Avenue, there was another kids that lived in the High Street area. They would hang around at the Sacred Heart Avenue playground. So different playgrounds attracted different kids from, you know, schools. A lot of it was centered around what grammar school you went to, and a lot through the churches in Central Falls.
Through the
You know,
parishes,
yes,
absolutely,
through the parishes, yeah. Like a lot of the kids from St. Matthews, they would hang around over at the Crossman Street or Higginson Avenue playground because that's where they lived. You know, kids from St. Joseph's down on High Street, they would go to Sacred Heart Avenue because that was the one that was the closest. So at the end of the summer, when we would have this field day that the recreation department organized, it was a playground competing against each other. And we'd have,
Okay.
you know, 50-yard dash, 100-yard dash, softball throw, long jump, relay races.
And we've got a photo coming up about, that's a classic photo that I see there. So describe what we're seeing.
Yeah, so at the end of one particular summer, I was named all-around athlete or super sport. And in that picture that you're describing, we have Ed Hiru and Bella Marie Goes, and they were presenting the trophy to me during that field day activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really probably the very first time that you said, you know, to yourself, I'm a really good athlete, because it only went out to one person, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. But those field days were such a great event for all of the kids in Central Falls, looking back on it now, because you got to meet a lot of kids from different parishes at that time that eventually, you know, you all ended up going to high school with.
Yeah, and it was
So-
all before Title IX, which was 1972, so there were
Right.
really no girls' sports at all at the high schools or anything else, unless, you know, the certain parishes were doing that.
That would be correct, yes. And, you know, I will always be grateful to the Recreation Department in Central Falls for that foresight in offering those events to the girls and the boys at the same time, that we had activities to do that were meaningful, and you learned as you went along. You know, and, you know, Eddie Hiru, and like I said, Bella Marie Goes, and Pat Marcotte, and Roger Barad, you know, they dedicated a lot to the kids in Central Falls at the time.
Sure, and even to this present day, I mean, that's what all the Parks and Recreation departments throughout the entire state, that they do. They go over, and you don't have to be a great athlete, or you don't even have to play sport, because there was a whole bunch of other activities that were going on in the certain parks and playgrounds.
Absolutely, yes. And they sponsored field trips every year. I remember going to the Basketball Hall of Fame and, you know, trips to the beach. So they had a lot of activities to do that our parents were comfortable letting us go, because they knew there were quality people that were.
Great childhood
Right.
sports memories, Kathy,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
Kathy, you played on the Rhode Island State Champion ASA softball team, coached by Bob Ferry. Talk about your softball experiences prior to high school.
Okay, so again, through the Recreation Department and the skills that we learned there, I guess Bob noticed that there were some girls that were pretty good, and he organized a Holy Trinity girls softball team. And we would play various games, you know, here and there. There were no leagues at the time, but, you know, we'd pick up games against some teams from Pawtucket or other parishes. And he entered us into a tournament, an ASA tournament, which was, you know, at the time it was a big deal, because it was a tournament we were playing in.
Uniforms?
Well, you know, we had uniforms from Holy Trinity that didn't match. They were kind of a hodgepodge of, you know, different years. You know, maybe when they bought T-shirts in one year, and then the next year they purchased another set. So they really didn't match. So we played in that ASA tournament, and we did really well, and we won.
Yeah. Now we've got a team photo coming up. So who was some of the top players on that team when you won the state championship?
So I remember Cindy Boiselle, Joanne Ferrer, Colleen Gribben, Lori Fascitelli, Anne-Marie Panetta. They were all
Kathy Kelley.
very instrumental in winning that tournament.
Yeah.
We
And
really upset, I think it was a team from Warwick. They never expected that this Holy Trinity team from Central Falls that were, in
Little
mismatched
hodgepodge, right? Yeah, mismatched.
uniforms, and we won. And we won the trip to, entitled us to go to Florida.
So you got a chance to leave Central Falls, leave Rhode Island. Of course, you took a plane ride. So tell me
Yes.
about that experience.
Well, prior to going, it was, okay, now how are we going to get there? So our parents, the parish priest, I remember, and I believe the mayor at the time was Frank Garvey, and just the community of Central Falls came together and found a way to get the money to send us to Florida. And we got on a plane, and we went to Florida.
And how'd you do?
We won 2 and lost 2 in Florida. So that was really, I believe, an accomplishment, because we were competing against other teams from different states that had softball maybe year-round, or, much more organized than we were. And a funny story, when we got to Florida, we played our first game. I can't remember if we won or lost the first game, because it was a double elimination tournament. And the people that were running the tournament, the ASA organization, noticed that we were mismatched, and some people had hats, some people didn't have hats, and went to the Bob Ferry and said, "You people, if you're going to continue, you need to have a uniform that's everybody has the same outfit on."
Yeah.
So somehow our parents, again, they found someone, I guess, to make a T-shirt, and bought us all matching shorts and hats overnight, so that we could continue to play in that tournament.
What a story.
Yes,
That's so cool.
yes,
It was
yeah.
like the Bad News Bears,
Well,
right? Basically?
we were, but finishing 2-2, I think, was very respectable for this, small state of Rhode Island that
And
that
the
we did that.
smallest city in the state of Rhode Island on top of that,
yeah,
right?
Yes, yeah. I remember, because we were overwhelmed that it was so hot down there. We weren't used to that kind of hot, because we went in August. So that was very hot, and they had us suggested that we take salt tablets, I guess, to help out in the heat and things. Yeah, and we got to go to Disney, so that was a special treat.
Absolutely. Another great childhood memory,
Yeah,
right?
it was. It certainly was.
Now, Kathy, the Holy Trinity Parish offered girls the rare opportunity prior to Title IX to play CYO basketball in the 1960s. So was the 6-on-6 girls style of play still in vogue when you played? Now, I say that, and probably no one understands what the hell I'm talking about with 6-on-6. Was that still part of girls basketball then?
Absolutely. And again, a memory that I have is when I was 10 years old, they offered basketball, and I signed up, and it was 6-on-6. And our coach was a woman named Karen Asis. And I was one of the younger girls on the team. And I remember a lot of the other girls, if I was in, 6th grade, maybe they were in 8th or 9th grade. But we did play 6-on-6 basketball, which meant that there were 2 girls that were rovers, and they could go up and down the basketball court. They could cross the center court.
Okay.
And there were 2 guards that just, defense, so they stayed on, the other side. And the forwards, they stayed on the offensive side. And that's how it was played. And I think it was, under the guise that, girls can't run that fast, or they shouldn't be running, and they
Don't want to
can't. They
strain them
can't.
too much,
don't-
right?
yeah,
They're not
there's-
athletes, they're
Correct.
girls, right?
Yes, yes. So I only really remember playing 1 year of that.
Okay.
So I think the next year, that's when Bob Ferry came along. And again, it was the same, the girls from the recreation department, that
And the
came
softball
and,
team,
yeah,
right?
from softball that came together, and it was a grammar team at first that we played on. And at the time, there was Holy Trinity had we called it the clubhouse. It was just a building that was associated with, the church, and you had the convent for the nuns, and then the rectory, and then we have the school, and then next door to the school was the Holy Trinity Clubhouse. Or
Community center.
Community
I
center.
played there many
Yes.
times to see Royal basketball.
Very small
Yeah.
core, and they had a pool in there, they had a bowling alley, and that was another hub of activities for families back in the 60s.
And now, you go from grammar to cadet basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You won the Blackstone Valley. We've got a photo of that team coming up. So why don't you talk about the top players there? Once again, was it the same top players that you had in softball?
Mostly, yes.
Okay.
Again, Joanne Ferrer, Cindy Boiselle, I remember. Lori Fascitelli joined us, I think, in 1 year at Holy Trinity. We had a young girl named Mary Ann Ouellette. She was tall, so she was our center. And Kathy Burns played, and so we had a nice team too. We were pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Holy Trinity was always known. Central Falls was known for basketball, at least for the boys.
Yes.
And then I'm not surprised that the girls didn't do well. So,
Yeah.
Kathy, besides softball and basketball, what other sports did the Recreation Department make available to the youth of Central Falls?
Well, tennis was a.
Well, that's right. You mentioned tennis. Here, tell me
Yes,
about that.
Yes. Well, one of the girls' directors, Pat Marcotte, her specialty was tennis. She was a very active tennis player. So she gave us tennis lessons down at Higginson Avenue. There were 2 courts, and she would have us go through different drills every day, and then she eventually set up a league where we competed amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And we also took lessons over at that YWCA. There was one court over there on the line between Pawtucket and Central Falls that I remember playing tennis over there. So that was also a big activity.
Well, and it's a lifetime sport, and you actually used that when you went off to college, right? You played on the Rhode Island College tennis team, which we have a photo coming up of that also, right?
Yes, I did. Actually, I played, we'll talk about that, I think, in a little bit. I went to the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut for 1 year, so I played 1 year of tennis there and 1 year of tennis at Rhode Island College, which, again, I had no formal training other than what I received from the Recreation Department and the skill and the coaching from Pat Marcotte, and just playing amongst ourselves. You just got better all the time because you got to play
Sure,
a lot.
absolutely, yeah. Now, Kathy, in your second year on the Central Falls high school basketball team, no, hold on, I went over and skipped a whole. There we go. Let me try this again. I apologize. Kathy, let's move on to your high school career, where in 1973, in your freshman year, there were no interscholastic league sports available to Central Falls schoolgirls.
That's correct. At that time in 1973, I think there was a lot going on. Now that I look back at it as an adult, they were building an addition to the high school.
Okay.
So my freshman and sophomore year were double sessions for school. So a lot of kids went to school very early in the morning, 7:30. They were done by 10:30, like the juniors and seniors. They were out of the building because it also became a junior-senior high at that point. So there were a lot of students in that school.
Oh, I bet
So there was no sports. Sports had not become a thing at that point.
Yeah.
I can remember, because we had the experiences through recreation and Holy Trinity, my homeroom teacher and world history teacher, legendary Oma Landry, who, Hall of Fame, all-state, terrific coach and athlete of himself, called me into his office. And at the time, you could smoke in schools. And
Sure.
Mr. Landry always had a cigar in his mouth. And I remember he called me into his office, and he had the cigar, and the room was filled with smoke. And he said to me, "Miss Kelley, they tell me you play basketball." And I must have said, "Well, yes, sir, I did." Or, I don't know if he was questioning, to see about organizing and implementing girls' sports, because
Sure.
that was coming down the pike. So I'm sure it was being talked about in Central Falls, but it actually didn't happen until 75,
Your junior year. Yeah.
1975. So they were a little late, but again, had a lot going on with building the addition and so forth.
Yeah, and now, during your sophomore year, you had a PE instructor, Larry LaCroix. Now,
Yes.
Larry LaCroix was my indoor track coach when I was over at St. Rayfields in the 1960s. And so talk about Larry and what he did in order to set you up for your junior year.
Yes. Well, Larry was actually an elementary phys ed teacher,
Oh, okay.
but had his background in running, you know, from
Absolutely,
Tolman, a
All-State.
terrific runner and swimmer. So, and again, I'm sure he knew what was coming down the pike with girls' sports in Central Falls, that he came over to the high school and he organized a running club. So I jumped on that. Carol Scalak, Karen Hermes,
Sure.
they were, again, you know, from different playgrounds, if you will, from
Yeah.
back in the day. So I got to meet them at the high school. And there were maybe 3 or 4 other girls, and we had a running club that we used to, you know, leave Central Falls, and as Larry would say, oh, jog to Slater Park, you know.
From Central
From
Falls.
Central Falls,
Yeah.
so
Not
just
an easy jog.
just jog there, or jog to Lincoln Woods, you know, or jog to Blackstone Boulevard. So we were all over the place running, but at the same time we were, you know, learning how to be long distance runners.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got a grandma story during the summer months, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, I have 2 stories about
Okay.
Larry. Well, first let me tell the first story about Larry, that I think he saw that he knew that Carol, and I were pretty good runners before we even competed in the interscholastic league. So he wanted to keep us under his thumb. So he offered us jobs in the summer before of our junior
Okay,
year.
I didn't know that.
And we worked at the 10-mile outpost, which was part of the Pawtucket YMCA.
Sure.
Out on Cottage Street.
Yes.
And so part of the deal with that was, well, we had to jog there in the morning
From
to go
your
to
house.
work. To go to work.
Yeah.
And then we'd, you know, work with the kids and do different activities. And then we would practice. You know, we'd have a practice, and then we'd have to jog home.
Oh.
So we were putting in a lot of miles, you know, and Larry was very, you know, smart and strategic.
But you got paid for it, so you were actually one of the first professionals around, right?
Well, yeah, well, we were being paid to work at the
Yes,
10-mile
yes.
outpost with the kids. So, but so that was great, and Larry did a lot for us. I mean, it didn't, you know, the season didn't start in September and end in, you know, the end of November. We ran year round. He had us out there in the snow and in the rain, and you know, he was very dedicated,
Okay.
dedicated to us.
And you had another story?
And yes, and so my grandmother, so now when I first started to learn how to drive, I was very close with my grandmother, and I would, you know, take her shopping, or, you know, different places that she would have to go. And she would say, how do you know how to get to all these places? And I said, well, Mama, we run to all these places. That's how I know, because we've had experience all over Pawtucket, you know, different parts of Lincoln, and we would run there, so I would know how to navigate the streets.
Sure.
Yeah, great memory.
Yeah. Now, Kathy, you begin your junior year at Central Falls High School in 1975 when you joined fellow pioneers Carol Scalak and Karen Hermes, who you've been running with for the last year, on the Warriors' very first interscholastic league schoolgirl sports team, which was cross country. Remarkably, all 3 of you were selected to the Rhode Island All-State team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me about that historic Harrier season.
Well, again, you know, we have to give credit to Larry, because he was setting that up, you know, and, you know, we were dedicated runners, and if he told us to run here or run there, and it turned out to be, you know, 8 or 9 miles, we didn't know it at the time, what we were doing, but that's what we were doing. And, you know, we had talent, and I think we were the only team in the state that had 3 all-state runners.
Well, I would think so. I think they
Yeah.
pick maybe the top 7 in the state meet sometimes, as that's how they do it now. But but in order to have a team, you have to have at least 5 girls on the team in order to score. Did you have a team, or were you just running individually, or how did that work?
We had maybe 6 or 7 girls that participated in cross country, and, you know, our fourth and fifth runner did okay, but in scoring wise, if Karen and I came in 1, 2, and 3, and then the other person came in, 20th, or it goes by points. So lots of times that their scores weren't enough for us to maybe win the championship,
Sure.
even though we had 3 All-Staters on one team.
Yeah.
But we were, just happy to have enough girls to have a team, because it was, it's a hard convince to people, to girls that maybe never participated in sports before, to say, okay, we're going to jog to Lincoln Woods today. And they've never even run a half a mile, but now you want them to run, 2 miles to get up to Lincoln Woods.
Sure.
So.
And so I know back in the 60s and 70s, they had the state meet over at the OLP Seminary, right over by Rocky Point.
Correct.
Which was not an easy trail to go over and run.
Right, yes.
Is that where you were running your state meet?
That was, yes. And I remember it was overwhelming because, it was the state meet, so we had, there were a lot of people there, and I remember the day it was freezing cold out. And it's right by the water,
Sure.
so that was a big deal. And I remember Larry suggesting to our parents that they go out and purchase us spikes to wear instead of just cross-country shoes because of the grass, and it would have gave us better traction and a better advantage during the race. So,
Sure.
Of course, our parents went out somehow and found, these kinds of special shoes for us for that particular race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you make out? How did the girls make out?
I think I finished that day, I might have been in 4th or 5th place. I don't really remember,
Yeah.
but,
But enough to make all state,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Now, Kathy, after a very successful cross-country campaign, you move on to Central Falls High School's inaugural schoolgirl basketball season as a 5'6" point guard. So I would think that your experience with Bob Ferry with the CYO Holy Trinity and your grammar and cadet bore you well in your high school career?
yes, and good thing that we did, because now we're playing in interscholastic league against other teams that are well-established and, organized. And so our 2 coaches that were hired to lead the Lady Warriors that year, we had Joanne Whitney and Carol Sulhaney, who, they were, fighting for equality for girls' sports at that time and making sure that we had good uniforms, and so because it was all new.
Sure.
So that was kind of a task that had to take place, so they did a good job with that. And we did pretty well. I think my sophomore year, we were 6 and 6.
Junior year.
Yeah, junior year, yes,
Yep,
excuse
6
me.
and 6. You finished 3rd in the league.
Yes.
You scored 15.7 points per game, and you were first team All Valley.
Yes, yeah, I remember.
What a great start to your schoolgirl career. You were all state in both cross country, the first 2 sports you played.
Yes,
right?
yes, thank you.
So we've got a nice photo coming up, a team photo. So who were the girls who really stood out besides yourself?
Okay, on the high school team, there was Lori Fascitelli, Ann Pullen, Karen Hermes, Carol Skalak, Anne-Marie Panetta.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
And you girls must have liked to run because you got 3 All-Staters right there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was always an advantage. And, the teams that we lost against, we were in the same league as St. Xavier's and Bayview Academy, and they were powerhouse teams at the time,
Sure.
So.
All girls schools
Correct.
also.
Yes.
And then you had a new gym, because I remember the old Central Falls High School gym playing CYO basketball for St. Teresa's was just a bandbox, and now you got a brand new gym.
Yes, that was very exciting. Yep, very exciting times that we had a brand new gym. It was, at the time, I think people were saying it was the 2nd largest gym in the state compared to, I think it was URI at the time. And so we were very proud of our gym.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, Kathy, it's the fall of 1976, your senior year, and cross-country coach Larry LaCroix has 3 returning All-Staters, and you, Carol Skalak, and Karen Hermes. Talk about the season.
Well, I mean, at that time, now more teams are starting to have cross-country teams. I remember Cumberland coming into the league, and they came in as a powerhouse. I think they did what Larry did for us the year before and prepped, because when they came in, Cumberland had some excellent runners.
And have over the decades now, right? Still,
Yes,
yeah. So tell me about the season.
Yes. So I think we did pretty well. And again, we kind of struggled with attracting more girls to participate, you know. And I remember sometimes Larry saying, you three cross the finish line at the same time. So instead of coming 1, 2, 3, he wanted us to cross the finish line at the same time, you know.
Sure.
Just to,
And is that what you did many times?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, yeah. Yeah.
But you know, if looking back and trying to find any type of articles about schoolgirl basketball in the early 70s, especially cross country, was non-existent by Pawtucket Times, and they did a great job of covering all the Valley sports.
Yes, that's true, and even a lot of the basketball scores too. If you look back at some of the articles, they may have, you know, in one small article, 5 or 6 games, you know, all in one small article.
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, Kathy, in your second year on the Central Falls basketball team, high school basketball team, you close out your interscholastic league career by being named to the Rhode Island All-State second team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk about that.
Well, that was very exciting. I believe our record that year might have been, was it 8 and 6?
8 and 4.
Oh, 8
again,
and 4.
Third place again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You averaged 15 points a game, 11 rebounds as a point guard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to earn that All-State title. I thank my coaches for speaking up and, you know, nominating me, because coming from, played in Division II, so it wasn't easy to get a third place team player on a division, you know, to make All-State. So that was really good. And I do have to say that, you know, some of the girls that played obviously in Central Falls were great players, but if we would have had a couple of my former teammates from Holy Trinity, Joanne Ferrer and Cindy Boiselle namely, they went to Notre Dame High School, because after you left Holy Trinity, you either went to Notre Dame, which was an all-girls school.
In Central Falls.
In Central Falls, or you went to the high school.
Okay.
And Joanne and Cindy went to Notre Dame. Had they joined, you know, the team at Central Falls, I believe we would have been a little bit better than we were.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so you coached basketball after you graduated from college in Central Falls. So what I want you to do is I want you to put your coaching hat on and give a scouting report of 5'6" point guard Kathy Kelley in her senior year. So what would you tell your girls? Well, you got to watch out for this Kelley girl. What did she have?
She was quick. I was quick. And very good on defense. I would always play like the other team's best player. Okay. So I was very good on defense because I had quick feet, you know, and I worked on that a lot by myself at home in my backyard. Believe it or not, I would do a lot of drills myself at home in my backyard. And I wasn't a long-range shooter, but, you know, 15 feet was an area that I was comfortable with. And I would get a lot of rebounds. So I'd be in there.
How so?
Just because I was aggressive and I was just in there, you know, in there fighting for the ball.
Sure. And you had to have a really good motor. I mean, if you were all-state in cross-country, you probably never stopped running. And those are the defensive people that you just a pain in the butt to have covered with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't tire easily, so I always, you know, had a lot of wind in me. So I always thought, even through college, that was one of my better traits, that I was always in shape, in good shape.
And talk about the seniors on that team. We've got a team photo coming up that you closed out your high school career with.
There was Ann Pullen. She was our center. I remember Ann. Karen Hermes was a senior. She graduated with me. Let's see, who else was in that picture?
Did you have like 10 girls on the team, or?
Oh yeah, we had
a full roster?
A full team, yes,
okay.
Because it attracted, you know, once the sport was introduced at the high school, it did attract a lot of other girls.
Yeah, I would think
interest.
so.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, Kathy, you received a full scholarship to play D2 basketball for the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, where you started every game as a 5'6" shooting guard, averaging 10 points per game, but you were one and done at the end of your freshman year. Talk about that year.
Well,
and how did you end up at the University of Bridgeport? Let's start that one.
So, again, kudos to Larry LaCroix, because
Okay.
Larry took me to the Pawtucket Library, because at the time to look up colleges, it was the old college catalogs was the way to,
remember those,
to
yes.
see. So Larry took me to the Pawtucket Library and selected a few schools that he thought, would be of interest to me. He actually took me up to Springfield College to tour that school.
He was a graduate of Springfield.
He was a graduate of there. Yep, I remember. I did apply there, but I ended up at the University of Bridgeport with and that was the time when schools were just starting to offer scholarships to girls.
Yes, right.
And yeah, so I went to the University of Bridgeport. It was a good experience. I mean, like I said, I stepped right into the role of playing, because they were rebuilding their program at the same time, and there were a couple of girls on that team that were recruited to play. So they were looking to improve their status. So it was a good experience. But I just chose not to go back to Bridgeport.
But before you sprained your ankle, though, during the summer months, was it?
No, actually,
when did that happen?
it was in the fall when we were playing pickup basketball just to get ready for the season.
On the campus.
Yes, and I sprained my ankle pretty badly, to the point that I needed to come home for some treatment.
Dr. Molak?
To see Dr. Molak.
We all had Dr. Molak
Yes,
during those years,
Yeah,
absolutely.
actually, my high school basketball coach, Carol Haney, introduced me to him. So I would take the train home from Bridgeport, and my father would take me to see him Saturday mornings, and he would treat me. And at the end of the time, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 weeks that he treated me. My father said, what do I owe you? And he said, buy me a beer sometime. I mean,
You remember those things, right?
What a nice guy. And, he didn't have to do that. He didn't really know my family, but he did that. And
So you finished your freshman year, and now we're talking the 70s,
Yep.
where lots of adventures going on and everything else happening. So you took a year off to sort of find yourself, like we all did during the 70s. And now it's the winter of 1980, and you are enrolled at Rhode Island College, and as a walk-on, a full scholarship to Bridgeport, you walked on for a tryout with the Anchor women's basketball team. So
Yes.
tell me about the tryout and who was there, and talk about that season.
Well, there were a lot of the girls that I knew who they were from around the state, because they were the leading players at their high school.
All-staters there?
So there were some all-staters that came on board, and that was always what was really neat about the team at Rhode Island College. We had, besides myself being an all-stater, we had Chris Donlin that came from St. Xavier's, and that was a powerhouse program.
Yeah.
Jackie Hulchrist from Warwick Vets, she was an all-stater, and they were like, inside, outside, duo. They were very strong players. Donna Slater from Warwick, also 6'1" center. Kathy Flynn, who from Pawtucket,
Bishop Keel
Bishop
girl,
Keel,
right?
yes,
Yeah,
yep. I
absolutely.
think Kathy might have been an all-stater too.
Yeah,
And
definitely All Valley.
Yes, oh yes. And Gail Henderson, she was another tall
Pawtucket
player,
girl.
Pawtucket girl.
Yeah.
Christy Switch from Cumberland joined us, and we had a nice team.
Yeah, you did.
We did.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you're not a point guard anymore, because Kathy Flynn's a point guard.
Correct, yes.
And so you moved over to a small forward. So
Right.
talk about that transition from point guard to shooting guard at Bridgeport, now small forward. You're still 5'6".
Yes. Well, I had to, find my place, and, the coach knew that, Chris Donlin, we didn't have the three-pointers at the time, but, Chris Donlin was shooting from the bleachers,
Oh, was she?
Oh, yeah, she was that
Like a
good.
Joey Hassett, right?
Well, coincidentally,
Yeah?
Chris Donlin grew up next door to Joe Hassett. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, there you
There
go.
it goes. There you know. Yeah. So
And,
now,
yeah.
right?
And then Kathy Flynn was a natural point guard. So I was, I was the off guard, small forward.
Yeah.
And so that's the role that I ended up playing at Rhode Island College. But again, rebounds. I was in there
Aggressive.
scrapping them, and but when I could get the rebound, I could also lead the fast break as well.
Of course.
So I was able to fill that role. So in the quickness, I believe it was able to enable me to be part of the starting team and just kind of walk right in and be an asset to the team.
Yeah. So we've got a team photo coming up. So talk about the starting five. So tell me, who were the two guards?
So it would have been Kathy Flynn and Chris Donlin.
Okay.
Yep. And then myself would say like the number 3 player or the small forward, Jackie Hultquist, the number 4 player, and then Donna Slater.
Okay. Now you averaged 9.2 points a game and 6 rebounds. You finished. Now you're now playing D3 as opposed to the D2. But the team was the first Rhode Island women's team to ever go over in any sport, make the postseason tournament.
Yes.
So a successful season, right?
Absolutely. That was my sophomore year.
Yeah, you finished 13-9.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. And we ended up losing to the eventual national champions, Worcester State, which they were very, very good. But we had a great team that year, and
So what teams did you play? Did you just play around New England, or did you travel further out?
No, it was just mostly teams, within the bus that we could take a bus to. Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of teams from Connecticut, Massachusetts.
All right. And was there a league, or was it everybody was independent at that point in time?
I believe it was independent.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was before the Little East Conference was developed.
Because the Big East wasn't even at that point in time, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so going off to Worcester State, where did you play Worcester State? At their campus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what other thoughts, experiences did you have in your sophomore year? Were you happy with playing basketball again, I would think,
Oh, yes,
right?
yeah. I was thrilled just to be back on a campus, taking classes, and playing basketball. And I had played tennis that year as well.
Oh.
Yeah, when my sophomore year, that was the one year I played tennis at Rhode Island College.
Was that a fall or spring sport?
A fall sport.
Yeah, how'd you do in that?
Okay.
Yeah, were you a singles or doubles player?
I played both. I was like the number 5 or 6 singles. So, I was happy with that.
Yeah.
And, this 2 or 3 doubles, depending on, the matchups and different things. But
So
it
did
was
you
great.
commute back and forth, or were you on campus?
I commuted.
Okay.
Yep.
Your entire 3 years there?
Yes.
Okay, so you sort of missed a little bit of that college experience there, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the way it worked. No scholarships at D3, right?
No, they used to call it a special talent award, so they gave you some kind of financial aid,
Okay.
and that was how they.
All right, so now Kathy, in your junior year, the Anchor women hired Joe Connolly, and you are unbelievably excited to play his style of full court pressure basketball.
Yes.
Talk about your junior year and talk about Joe.
So I was actually asked to be on the selection committee, to interview coaches.
Really?
I was, yes.
Wow, that's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
They thought a lot about you.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
So
What was that
that
like?
was interesting because we had some good qualified candidates, I remember, but then there was Joe Conley, and Joe's experience and his what he has done at St. Xavier's is second to none.
Oh, so he was the St. Xavier's coach.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. So he went from high school to college.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And he had just had a reputation of excellence, and I remember playing at St. Xavier's. Everybody dreaded going to and their school's gym was more than a bandbox.
Oh, really?
And the place would be packed to the rafters with the girls and the nuns,
Neat.
and they wore the skirts, of course. St. Xavier's did back then, the purple and white skirts. And going in there to play, you just dreaded it because you knew what was going to happen. It was it was a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And they were good.
Yeah.
Those girls, you know, and so they got to attract girls from different communities too, so they weren't all from one community, but they had some girls that were very, very good. Carrie Fair, I remember, and of course Chris Donlin, and Nancy McLaughlin, and there's a few other girls that were really good. So Joe applies for the job, and you know, there was no question that Joe was going to be the next Rhode Island College women's coach.
Yeah, clearly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so talk about, so what was different from the coaching style in your sophomore year to your junior year with Joe?
Well, you know, I want to just say Joe had a lot more basketball knowledge and background.
Experience, yeah.
You know, experience, and, you know, I don't want to say just playing through the boys' game, you know, and I know he was friends with Joe Hassett too, so, and he had a lot of basketball friends, so they had a lot of knowledge. So he brought that through to us, and just the practices were very intense and competitive. A lot of run and gun, you know, and being prepared for different teams.
And so a new coach comes in, and he doesn't care what you did in your sophomore year or anybody else. You've got to prove to him that, you know, you and the rest of the girls. So did the girls, the same core that was there that didn't graduate, did they become now the starters in the junior year under Connolly?
Yes, we didn't lose very many from our from my sophomore to junior year. We didn't lose too many girls. So it was basically the same starting five.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And now you were named captain in your junior year as a walk-on from your sophomore year. So what did that mean to you, and what did you see as your role? Were you a rah-rah type of a captain, or were you just leading by example?
It was a great honor to be named captain.
Absolutely.
After just walking on, and I became part of, you know, of the team and of the girls, and so I was more of a lead by example type of captain. Just you know, just playing my absolute hardest and always expecting to give 100% on the court. So I expected everybody else to do the same. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And so you finished with a 14-8 record, and you once again was a tournament team, right? And so talk about that. So different from Worcester State, now you actually got to travel, right? You had so tell me about the postseason.
Yeah, so we played in the postseason. I can remember playing Buffalo State, and then
Where?
I think it was at Buffalo State.
Okay.
I think.
Flew, right?
No, maybe it was
that's
at.
a long drive.
No, maybe it was at home. That, you know, that I don't remember.
Okay.
But I looked back through my memories, and I know we beat them. And then the second seeded was Manhattanville College, and we upset them. And that, I believe, gave us the opportunity to travel to Knoxville College as the Eastern runner-up. I think we were just the runner-up. I don't believe we were the champions
in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay.
So we played at Knoxville College.
All right.
In Tennessee. So here we go down. Here's us Rhode Island College girls, and
First overnight experience.
oh,
right?
absolutely, and plane ride,
Yeah.
and so it was again very exciting time. You know, the campus was pretty abuzz with the girls traveling, and the college again somehow found the money to put us on a plane and give us the accommodations and so forth. So here we go to Knoxville, and so when we were warming up, we were noticing that the other team were a little bigger than we were, and as they were warming up, they're slapping the backboards. You know, and we have, you know, Donna Slater, who's 6'1", and, you know, and Donna might be able to hit the backboard, but most of these girls from Knoxville College were very good. And we only got beat by 12 points, which, you know, in the scheme of things at the end wasn't too bad. So it was a great experience, and you know, we did a lot of things while we were in Knoxville. I remember going horseback riding, you know, Joe Connolly leading the way in the Smoky Mountains.
First time for all the girls in the Smoky Mountains.
In the Smoky Mountains, we went
Sure.
horseback riding.
Yeah.
So it was a memorable experience.
So we've got a team photo coming up, And so the sophomore year. So tell me who the starting five were, and give a little scouting report on the starting five.
So,
Start with the guards.
so Kathy Flynn, of course, she ran the floor.
How big?
Kathy Flynn was only about 5'5". She
Okay.
wasn't 5'5", 5'6". My
How was she
height.
different than you as a point guard?
I think she just was more of a natural point guard, and she's settled into that role where she knew she was always going to take the shot, because we had Chris Donlin as the shooting guard, and Kathy was just comfortable in just running the offense.
Sure.
And good defensive player, Kathy.
Okay. Who's the shooting guard?
That's Chris Donlin.
How tall?
And she's only about my height too. She's not real big, but that was
5'6".
the girl from St. Xavier, and Chris had a little bit of edge on everybody. She could do the spin dribbles, and she had a little bit of an edge to everybody else. I think she was a little heads and shoulders above.
Sure. Well,
talent-wise.
Providence girl too, right?
Providence girl, living next door to Joe Hassett, playing at St. Xavier's.
And you were the small forward. Who was the
yes.
power forward?
Jackie Hultquist.
And how big?
Jackie's about 5'9", 5'10".
Okay.
Very talented, out of Warwick Vets. Strong, a lot of moves inside. She could go right, she could go left, and, strong rebounder, and, just got the rebounds to get the fast break going.
Sure. And your center?
And Donna Slater, 6'1". Again, she's from Warwick Vets as well. Donna was a very good volleyball player at Rhode Island College, too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yep.
All right. And so we're going to move on to the winter of 1982 and your senior season, and the Rhode Island College women's basketball team, of which you are the captain once again, congratulations, is now the #1 rated D3 squad in New England and New York. Did the team live up to those high expectations?
Yes, we did, and we knew at that time we had put Rhode Island College on the map as far as basketball was concerned.
Sure.
And we were all excited, and I think we played some better teams that year because there was, again, no league. So I remember playing, I think, Assumption, and we played Brown and Bryant. So we were playing some better teams, again, so that we could better our record to qualify for the postseason tournament. But
you had an 18-6 record,
yes.
Which you averaged 14.4 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, and now another Pawtucket girl comes on as a freshman, St. Raphael Academy's Peggy Lynch.
Yes, Margaret joined us. Yes, she did, and Peg was a good shooting guard, and she joined our team, and she added minutes, to coming off the bench as a freshman. And she was a joy to have on the team.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so talk about that season with Joe Connolly. Now, your second year with Joe Connolly, so now he knows his girls.
Yeah.
The girls know what Joe is expecting. Anybody new on the starting five?
No, we did not lose anybody. Believe it or not, we didn't have any seniors that we lost from juniors.
So your first year as a sophomore, those girls, for the most part, went all the way through. No wonder you went 18-6.
Correct. Yes.
Were you surprised?
Well, no, because we just kept getting better. Jackie and Chris Donlin were freshmen when they came in, and that made that impact right away.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So everybody just got better as the years went on, and with Joe, he would introduce more things, maybe a little bit more advanced. I know he wanted us to play this jump man-to-man, he called it. So that was just
what is that?
Something. It just meant, if you guarding someone and a person got by you, that you would have to jump over to this one and the other one would come over. So there was a movement that he was expecting, us to learn.
Sure.
So
like a combination defense, basically.
Yeah.
All right. And so you went over and made the postseason once again, and you went off to New Jersey.
Right. Yes, we played the #1 seed in New Jersey, and I know we got beat there. They were tough.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah. We didn't get to travel like we did my sophomore year because I guess just the way the brackets fell, but. that's how it ended. We played in New Jersey.
Sure, and you ended your career with 764 career points. All right, so any games or anything significant during that season that that's a highlight for you?
I remember, I don't know which particular games, but I know there were some games that I scored over 20 points. And, there was one game I think I even scored 31, 32. So, also.
That's impressive, yeah.
Also, to that point is, Chris Donlin became, in her junior year, the first female to reach 1,000 points at Rhode Island College.
Really?
Yes, and that was a huge celebration.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, right behind her was Jackie Holquist, 1,000 points. So I was playing behind 2,000-point scorers. So,
To get that many points, yes.
They were getting their points, well deserved and earned. But, I was getting my points too, an awful lot of rebounds, things of that nature. And sometimes Joe would have Jackie and I, he'd call it a two-man. So it was Jackie and I, we'd be isolated on one side of the court, and we would just play 2-on-2.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because her and I we just played nice together. We gelled.
And your point guard skills must have come out at that point in time, right?
And I remember, a lot of times I do a lot of driving to the basket to get people in foul trouble,
Sure.
the other team's players.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Kathy, you graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education. What was next for you, briefly?
Well, right away, I started subbing in Central Falls.
You went back home.
I did.
Good for
yes,
you.
Yeah, right
Good
away.
for you.
Actually, I graduated in May. I think I was subbing in the end of May, beginning of June.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and so then what happened from there?
So from there, then for me, it was time to give back. I knew there were opportunities out there for coaching, and with girls' sports becoming more popular, it was time to give back. And at the same time, while I was in college, I became the girls' recreation director, just like Bella Marie Goes and
Yeah.
Pat Hamill. So I spent a couple of summers during my college working for the recreation department, where I was given the tennis lessons and softball and basketball and mimicking what they did for me when I was a young student.
Well, and so I know you coached basketball, I take it. Any other sport?
At Central Falls, I coached cross country for a couple of years and softball.
Okay. And then you went on to be an athletic director there.
I did.
So would you be willing to come back in 2025 just to talk about your athletic director and your coaching career?
I sure would, yes.
Great. So
that'd be
we've
nice.
got 2 minutes left in the show. And so reflecting back on the playing days of your youth in the 1960s, high school, 1970s in college, and 1960s in youth. I think I got that messed up a little bit, but what was your favorite memory?
Well, Bill, there's so many memories in so many years of playing sports. It would hard to pick out one, but there is something that's very special to me. Would be the day that I walked down the quad at Rhode Island College to receive my diploma. And that to me was the culmination of everything that I had worked for all the years, playing and participating, and the friendships that I've made and the coaches that I had. That day is very special to me.
Mom and Dad there?
Of course.
Yeah. Were you the first in the family to graduate from college?
I was.
Like we all were,
Yes.
right? Neat.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy, thank you for sharing your perspectives and memories on your outstanding playing career. This was great fun. It was a great pleasure to have you on Good Sports. Great job.
Thank you, Bill.
You're very welcome, and we'll see you back sometime in 2025.
Okay, sounds
Perfect.
good.
Bill Mulholland for Good Sports. Good night.